I think I have the perfect warp command for Jerry Ryan's Captain 7 of 9 in the proposed Star Trek Picard spin-off, Star Trek Legacy. After Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart used Engage to take the USS Enterprise D to warp in Star Trek The Next Generation. New Star Trek shows have popularized the idea of every Starfleet captain's warp command being unique. I was excited to hear Captain Michael Burnham's Sonequa Martin Green Let's Fly after Burnham finally assumed command of the USS Discovery, and I hope to hear Captain Seven's command at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 3. But the Star Trek Picard epilogue cleverly cut off the final scene aboard the USS Enterprise G before we could hear how Captain Seven initiates war. Star Trek Legacy was set up as a spin-off show about Captain 7 of 9's USS Enterprise G crew, with Commander Raffi Musiker Michelle Hurd, Lieutenant Sidney LaForge Ashley Sharp Chestnut, and Ensign Jack Crusher Ed Spaliers. Paramount Plus hasn't ordered Star Trek Legacy as either a series or a streaming Star Trek movie, so we may never know what Seven's warp command is. But I think this one would work. I think Captain 7 of 9's perfect warp command is simply proceed. While Captain 7 of 9 has left her Borg ways behind her and embraced her own individuality, some old habits die hard. That means 7 of 9 still values efficiency, so a short, one-word warp command like proceed is perfect for the new captain of the USS Enterprise G. Proceed is also something that 7 of 9 says to her USS Voyager crewmates on Star Trek Voyager. So the brief command still honors 7's origins as a product of Captain Catherine Janeway Kate Mulgrew. The thing to keep in mind about 7 of 9's warp command at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 3 is that all eyes are on her, expecting Captain 7 to come up with something unique and impactful in the moment. 7 of 9 doesn't have time to think of a groundbreaking new phrase. Instead, it's more likely that Captain 7 of 9 will order the USS Enterprise G to warp with whatever command comes to mind. Proceed suits 7, especially as a more formal compliment to Captain Janeway's straightforward do it from Star Trek Voyager. There's also a chance that Captain 7 of 9 just wouldn't have a warp command at all. Speaking to Screen Rant's Grant Hermans, Jerry Ryan shared an evil genius idea for Captain 7, in which Star Trek Legacy, if it ever happens, would just keep cutting away from Captain 7's warp command every time she says it. 7's catchphrase being a mystery could be a fun running joke for a while, maybe until the end of Star Trek Legacy's first season, but Captain 7 of 9 would eventually need to have an actual command to initiate warp. Things have changed since the days of classic Star Trek, when Starfleet captains didn't necessarily need to have specific, individual catchphrases that order their starships to warp. With more Star Trek captains than ever, though, each captain having their own warp command helps define their leadership style. That phrase reflects how they view the broad, excited hope that exists at the moment right before the action kicks into gear. But we'll just have to wait and see what Captain 7 of 9 says in Star Trek Legacy if the Star Trek Picard spin-off ever, well, proceeds.